First of all, this talk contains a lot of swearing and a very impassioned Australian. Yeah, so sorry about that. Don't mean to cause any offense. If I do cause offense, sorry. Yeah, moving right on. So, welcome. First thing about me, I'm not a security expert, guys. I'm just a developer. I've been working with PHP for a while. Look, I didn't study security or programming even at university. I did multimedia with a sound major. But, you know, like many of us, got sucked into PHP through, you know, just the way that the world works. You end up sort of doing these things. And been doing that for about 12 years, give or take, and I've been hacked a lot. So basically this talk is trying to maybe make people aware of the things that I wasn't aware of back in the day. And hopefully those people who are uber ninjas at PHP might, you know, just enjoy the ride. So the main goal of today's talk is to scare the hell out of you. Like, honestly, if you guys go home today sort of questioning your own existence, looking at yourself and saying, why the fuck am I doing this? I've succeeded, all right? Because, you know, programming securely is a difficult thing. And if you're scared, if you're examining everything that you're doing in detail, that means you're being defensive. That is what defensive development is about, all right? So the topics we're going to cover today, things to avoid with PHP, just to brush over that. We're going to talk about string escaping, obviously, which is dull, but kind of important. And then we're going to talk more about strings, which, of course, is good. And then cool code injections, bits like that, some infrastructure stuff, touch on that lightly. And finally, a bit of a case study. Feel free to scream out at any point in time. I'll probably ignore you until the end. Okay, but first, why am I saying that PHP is evil? So basically, a few points. Fundamentally, PHP in the past has encouraged developers to remain ignorant of really important issues like, you know, string escaping, for example. We'll get a little more into that in a bit, but yeah, that's pretty nasty. It has made terrible design decisions, like auto-register variables and things like that. This is getting better, of course, as the language evolves, but, you know, they haven't done that so well. It has a lot of quirks, gotchas, inconsistencies, and unknowns. You know, haystack, needle, needle, haystack, all that sort of stuff. Everyone loves that, right? Yeah, and some nods in the audience. Okay. For example, okay, this is a classic sort of SQL injection. As you can see, got a user ID there. It's in a function, but, you know, you're not really sure what the user ID is. So a classic way of, you know, safening this would be to cast it to an int, which is not the correct way, but we'll get onto that in a bit. However, a lot of people will take this kind of approach, right? That should be good enough. You know, in most cases, if, you know, UID is not an integer, it'll just return 0, right? Right? Let's go on here. Okay, what have we got? Okay, so PHP-8, right. Yeah, cool, right? 0. Why 0? Why not -1? Right, see. Anyway, that's by the by. That's cool. Let's say it was like an array, right? Yeah, that's 0 as well, right? Yeah, nice. Anyone? Isn't that cool? So you can imagine, you know, that if you did have that particular function, you'd end up getting the first record, which a lot of the times is your admin user, right? Some basic things to avoid: coding without notices, the shut the fuck up symbol, right? Love that thing. Basically, and it's pretty much everywhere. I mean, this is a link to a blob of code igniter. I've got that up on another thing here. But basically, this little guy, probably can't see that. This little guy here has caused me major hassles in the past because you don't know whether your username's incorrect or your hostname's incorrect or something like that, and when you're in a live configuration and everything's breaking, that takes a lot of digging. But yeah, okay. Extract, obviously. Who's ever used extract, guys? No? No? Yeah, right, don't. Please. Double dollar sign. This shit is really cool. Who thought the double dollar sign was amazing when you first read about it in the PHP manual? Yeah, right. Yeah, don't, no. Honestly, these things just clobber your variables. You've got no idea what the hell is going on, right? And you can have no confidence that your variables are going to stay in the same state if you have code like this going around, so yeah. Just the basic ones, backtick, system, and eval. Everyone knows that, if you use that, you're just asking for trouble, right? It's like, yeah, really hard to escape properly, really hard to work with, and if you can avoid it, please do. Type juggling is also a classic one. Before it would have been good if we'd just made sure that it was an integer and then, throw an exception or something like that, instead of relying on PHP's sort of type mangling. And finally, being lazy. We're all PHP coders, and sort of being lazy is kind of in our blood, right? It's a scripting language, that's what we are. But it leads to issues. So, just when you come across a bit of code, think twice about it, right? First of all, right, string escaping. SQL inject what now? Okay, so, right, it's 2013, right? Yeah. Why do we still have SQL injection attacks, right? Like, everything that you hear about, all the news, all that sort of stuff is SQL injection attack has resulted in this database being compromised or something like that. It's not too hard to fix. And a bit of history, PHP was kind of invented in 1995. Yay? Yay? Yay. Yes. Java was invented in 1995 as well, yeah? Oh, come on, guys! So in 1996, just a year later, Java came out with JDO, Java Data Objects, with this fantastic little function called prepare statements. Hands up, anyone know about that? Oh, come on, guys, yeah? Basically, they're fucking amazing. Really? Yeah, it took 10 years for PHP to have that same sort of functionality. Yeah, so MySQLi, of course, was a couple of years ago before that, but still, it took a very long time. So prepared statements essentially take away any kind of problems with string escaping, right? You just don't have to worry about it. You put placeholders where your SQL thing is, and then you just pass the parameters through, and it'll take care of the escaping for you. Everyone should do it. I don't know why. That was still 8 years ago, though, guys. 8 years to fix up your fucking code. Anyway. And yeah, so why? Yeah, okay, let's click on this. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so PHP, MySQL, insert tutorial. Okay, first result. Oh, W3 Schools. Legend. Love that site. Okay, let's go down. What have we got here? What have we got here? Oh, this is how you insert. Can anyone see that? Right. Honestly, what the hell? Come on, serious. This person should be hung, drawn, and quartered, and then they should be, brought back to life, and then hung, drawn, and quartered again, brain dead. But essentially, this is why there's thousands of people like us out there who, have SQL injection attacks, is because of things like this. And I, of course, used this tutorial back in the day, or something very, very similar to it, and got bitten rather badly. But that worked, right? That worked on the default installation of PHP 5.3 and below, okay? Without any issue. Everything just, no string escaping issues. Because of this magic thing called magic quotes GPC. It just magically added slashes to everything, and any input that came in was automatically escaped, because PHP made an assumption that everyone who uses PHP is just going to be inserting values that are sent into a database and doing nothing else with them, all right? Which is great. It means developers like us never have to pay any attention to anything vaguely to do with escaping. The problem's already taken care of. Until you start reading data back out of the DB and inserting it again without passing it through get or post, all right? Or you read from a file or something like that. So PHP came up with a brilliant solution. We got you covered. Magic quotes runtime. Who's heard of that? Anyone? Well, a couple of people. Yeah. These are the two most brain-dead decisions. Well, no, not the most brain-dead decision. It's one of the most brain-dead decisions that architecturally PHP has ever made, sort of hiding all that from us. The great thing about this is that magic quotes runtime was off by default, and the input was, on by default. So you've got mismatched data there. Well, you've got no real idea. So knowing this, is there a SQL injection attack in this code? I mean, look at this. We've got concatenated strings. A lot of people will say yes, right? Yeah? The truth is you don't really know, because you don't know whether a username is escaped by the time it gets here. In a lot of cases, it will be. So you end up double escaping. Who has seen apostrophes for like 5 bazillion forward slashes, backslashes front? Yes, yes. It's because no one actually knows whether it's escaped or not. So just to be safe, you escape it again, and 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 again, until all of a sudden, yeah, you overflow your char column, and it's a bit messy. Right. It also sort of ignores stuff like the end file character on Windows. You know, that's the Control-Z, which is really annoying if you're like going through log files or whatever. It'll just, you know, whatever. Don't see anything past this point. That isn't escaped by magic quotes, but it will be escaped by real escape string for MySQL, okay? If you're encoding a set correctly. We'll get onto that. So, the correct way to escape is like, die a quick and bloody death. Just, you know, end it, please. And then escape everything at the very last moment, right? So, if you need to strip anything or unencode anything, you're doing it wrong, right? You just don't do it. And then you can escape correctly for your chosen output. And this way, you'll make sure that, you know, when you go into CSVs, you're not doing the backslash quote because it's double quote with CSV, right? Things like that. And all of it just magically works. It's great. This is a pet hate of mine, this input cleaning stuff, right? By this, I kind of mean things like the cross-site scripting clean. The reason why I hate this is because people mistake this for escaping. Okay? It's very, very easy for a developer to come along and say, oh, this is fan-fucking-tastic, I'll make use of that. And then forget about escaping when it comes to actually displaying on the page. They just don't do it because they think this is going to take care of it. So, but that being said, right, yeah, are you actually, that's fine. That's a different issue. I just got angry and I wrote that down. That being said, please still use it. You know, there's no sort of prizes for coding without safety nets. You know, it's always good to do this. I've got this cool random IE hack that I thought I'd throw in here. So let's talk about HTML injections. Let's talk about the page title. So we've got HTML special chars there. That's how we can escape that. It's all nice and good and fun. UTF-7. Who knows where this is going? Hands up. Anyone heard of this? Oh, cool. You guys are going to love it. UTF-7 encoded tags look like that, or something very similar at least. If you ran HTML special chars over that, it wouldn't do anything, right? So pay attention to your codings, because IE, right, had this fantastic feature where it would, if you didn't give it an encoding as part of a meta parameter or part of a header, it would just try and work it out based on the first few hundred bytes of the page. And if it came across something like this in your title tag, it's like, oh shit, the whole page is in UTF-7, and boom, this is executed. Yeah, you can't defend against that. Also, another cool thing is that HTML escape special chars does take an encoding parameter, but UTF-7 isn't actually valid. So, yes. Anyway, this is fixed, guys. Thank you. But yeah, pay attention to your encodings. It is important. It is important. My MySQL escape will take a char set. It needs that. Takes an encoding. Okay, more strings. PHP is essentially shit held together with chewing gum, bubble gum, or any kind of gum. All right? So C string is null terminated because this is back, I don't know, dark ages. Some coders with chisels and rock were writing this code. And bytes were fucking expensive. So instead of putting the length of the string as the first, 4 bytes, they would just put a null terminator on the end. And all of C works like this. Okay? That saves them a whole 3 bytes. Brilliant. PHP, of course, and every other language ever since, it does it properly, and it has the length in there, so you can actually have null bytes in there. But the C functions will only see everything up until the first null byte, which is great. Kind of. Only it can get exploited very, very easily because you essentially end any string arbitrary at any point just by inserting a null character. So how can we exploit this? So let's have a quick look. Oh, gee, this is annoying. this simple case-insensitive replace. So here you can see that I'm just concatenating all this together, and we've got an I in there. Now, preg replace can accept an eval modifier. Isn't that cool? This is like having magic evals just all littered throughout your code, and no one really realizes. Any Perl coders in here? Really? Anyway, oh yes, Angus at the back. Excellent. Yeah, Perl suffers from this as well, so, you know, just so you know. So you could, let's see if I can, I've got an example up of this here. Right, I'm not sure if you can see, but this would be the example usage. Replace A in ASDF with B, and we get BSDF, right? That was a capital A, all good. So let's go a step further. If I put in a /E, we would get an invalid pattern. But if we added a null terminator on the end, we're all good because we just strip off that other modifier, right? Check it. Ha, cool. There's my null terminator there. That's how you encode a null in HTML, URL encoding, right? So replace A in ASDF with a shitload of PHP. This is my password file. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So yeah, that's a bit dirty. Okay, what's affected? Everything. Because PHP is just, you know, going down to C all the time. Yeah, you've got a lot of stuff to do. You see this most commonly with things like this. Has anyone come across something like this before? Yeah, nods in the room. Yeah. That .php is not going to save you guys. Do something like this. Don't be lazy, right? Have a giant big switch statement there. Only allow explicit values when you're doing your includes, okay? It's a bit more verbose and all that sort of stuff, but you know, you're not going to have random exploits littered throughout your code, okay? Also, something to remember is to secure around your PHP. Like, security isn't just about you know, your code. It's about the server, it's about the environment, all this sort of stuff as well. So have several layers. Think, what could someone do if they got this far? What could someone do if they got that far? And try and put a barrier at every step of the way. Most attackers out there are just after easy targets. I'm sure people have seen in their Apache logs just a shitload of rubbish, right? Yeah, that's just bots going around looking for low-level, low-hanging sort of fruit in terms of attacks, like the include attack, right? Then after that, so they can use your box to send spam, to send phishing attacks and that sort of stuff. So these small layers can go a long way. Also, PHP has a shitload of configuration options. Like, check this. This is great. Some nighttime reading for you. Yeah. Anyway, learn them all, right? Or at least be aware of them. Have a look, because there's some options in there that are actually going to make your life a lot easier. Please, 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 please set your open-based dir path. Who knows? Who does not know what that is? Anyone? Good. Disable functions is also very, very handy. Only you can't disable eval. Brilliant. All backticks. Anyway, safe mode. Who likes safe mode? Ah. Why not? It was so good. It was fantastic. Eval was disabled, a whole heap of shit was disabled. It actually went a long way to protecting you from yourself. Okay? And they removed it in 5.4, mostly due to sort of maintenance issues and the fact that it was very, very difficult to do correctly. But yeah, it was a good thing. It's always good to run that if you have it available, if you can. It also encourages you to code sort of more rigidly and correctly. Make sure your files got correct ownership and things like that. Oh yeah, and finally, I'm not sure, there was another talk on about running out of RAM, but guys, be aware that Apache is forked, okay? So you've got a lot of different processes running and they can blow up with RAM. You can OOM your box if you expand your memory limit above what you have available. So also, connections, if all of your processes are currently servicing requests, say you've got like a timer or something on there, or you're streaming a download, long poll, something like that. After that, your connections are queued, and once that's full, then your whole box falls over, which is great. So, just be aware of that sort of thing. It goes a lot further than just PHP. Okay, so, case study. Good old Stephen Fry. I'm not sure who was aware of Stephen Fry's Twitter getting hacked a few years ago. Twitter password? No one? Great. Okay, so step one, target and discovery. So the goal here was to basically try and get Stephen Fry's Twitter password. And what they did was basically have a look around, do some searching. There was no info in the HTTP headers about what software he was running or anything like that. But there was a WordPress version in the meta tag of the site, so they had a quick look at that. There wasn't much there. There was some cross-site scripting attacks available, but nothing like code injection, which is really what those guys were after. All right. So the next thing they did is they went and searched on Google. Basically, Google has a file type sort of functionality where you can just get all the PHP files on a site just by typing in this, right? Google's great for hacking, by the way. Boom. Oh, did it again. This sort of uncovered things like this. Subsection equals Twitter. And that was using that pattern that everyone's been stung by. All right. So they tested it out. Okay. Now, people have seen this before in your logs, no doubt, at some point. Right. Let's see how we go here. So just bear with me. I'm just going to locate where I was. Okay. So we saw before I had my, my password attack here, very, very similar, I guess. The password file is accessible to everything always, right? That's why everyone classically looks for it in the first place. It really tells you whether an exploit is there or not. And once you know that it's there, you can go ahead and execute whatever you want. So allow URL include is one of those terrible options that you can enable if you want to shoot yourself in the foot or in the head or both. It basically means that you can include an HTTP file as a PHP file, and away you go. Thankfully, Stephen Fry didn't have that enabled on his site, so they have to get some code into the server somehow using a local file injection. Okay, so who's aware of /proc/self on Unix systems? Yeah, a couple of people. Yeah, so basically this gives you a whole heap of information about you as a process. And with environ, this is a bunch of environment variables, I guess. PHP will, if you're running a CGI, will pass that through. So what you can do is just have a header that you send with your request with a bunch of PHP in it. And if you can include that file, it will execute it. Okay? There's also proc/self fd. fd has all the file descriptors that are currently open. So, let's have a look at this. Okay, so my log file, for example. That is this bit of code here. So /proc/self/fd/2, that's a file pointer number 2. And the great thing about this is it gets around any permissions that you might have on your log file directory, right? So say your /var/log/apache2 is not readable by anyone. It's really locked down only to the owner. Now, you're executing this as a different user, so usually you wouldn't be able to access it. But if your actual error log file, right, has read access, regardless of the parent directory, you can still access it through this path instead. It's sort of like this magic little workaround. It's really, really cool. And there we go. There's my log file. We can see that that works just by refreshing, and I'll get additional entries in there. Oh, yeah, by the way, it seems to be default on Red Hat, CentOS, all that sort of thing, so if you guys are running that, yeah, it's okay on Ubuntu, but other ones, be aware of it. So the easy way to exploit this is to use curl to issue a request with some PHP code in it. So if we were to take something similar to this, can I actually select that? No. But you get the idea here. This will put the referrer in. because it has an incorrect referrer, Apache's going to go, what the hell, and throw that in the error log. All of a sudden, you have this raw PHP code in your error log. Cool, huh? That's cool. Okay. And then, of course, you just include proc self fd2, and you're executing, and you're laughing. You're there, right? You can use that to bootstrap any other command, such as this. Yeah? Great. So, step 3 was find the password. Basically, this is the easy part from now on. Just find a writable directory. There was one on the image thumbnail cache somewhere. Upload a web shell. In this case, I use C99 mad shell. Browse, read source code, do whatever you want, send spam, make love, all that sort of thing. And walking through the execution path of the actual site itself, they found this little nugget in SF constants, right? That's base64 coded. We'll give you that, which is his password. Yeah? I faked that one, but that is actually what they posted. And got a whole heap of weird responses. But yeah, that's it. So some easy ways that he could have avoided this. First of all, don't have a file inclusion vulnerability attack, please. That's, yeah. And ways they could have prevented inclusion of the log file, preserve the log file permissions, right? By default on Ubuntu, it comes down locked down, but you know, in Red Hat, you still got to lock that down. Open base dir, if that was set, would have been fine because that path wouldn't have been there, right? Safe mode would have been fine. No eval, no different owners on your log file versus your script. It would have been great. And why did they get rid of that? SE Linux. Who runs that, guys? Maybe just a handful. Do it. Just research it. It's a pain in the ass. It's a real pain in the ass to get running, all right? But once you have it running, it's really going to protect you against things like this. You have different modes for the files, so it's like, I'm not going to include that log file. It's a log file. It's not PHP. With the writable directories, that's a little more difficult, but possibly by pre-caching the images, that would have gone a long way. Could have possibly cached that in the DB as well. That would have been handy. But yeah, it is difficult. And eval, safe mode. Right. So there was probably others. How are we doing for time? 10 minutes? Excellent. Great. Yeah, so I guess good time to wrap up. Guys, always think defensively when you're typing your code. It's like, how can this be exploited? At every single step. The most minute function call, just can I trust the parameters that have been set in? Don't think big, think small. All right? Or defer your escaping, always do it at the very last minute. Use prepared statements. Use prepared statements. Use prepared statements. If anyone is writing MySQL real escape, you're doing it wrong. All right? Prepared statements, please. Be mindful of PHP's inner workings. So that poison null character is something that was going to go away. Will probably go away with PHP 6, but until then, we're stuck with it, right? So be careful about that. And yeah, always remember that PHP is silently working against you. Okay? Right. Guys, questions, thoughts, feedback? Let's hear it.
At what point will it eat my baby? You said it's eating.
Well, I guess at any one of those points that I've demonstrated, yeah, it does. It wants to break in and get your children.
Any questions? Do you have an opinion on how safe WordPress is?
I haven't used WordPress in quite a while, so no, I guess. Mostly because I've been hacked quite a few times. Anyone else, guys? Don't be shy. We're all friends, right? Yeah?
I mean, a lot of that code had seemed quite old school. How do you feel about security with regards to some of the most popular frameworks?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, one of the valuable things that frameworks can add is it'll take a lot of the pain out of this sort of thing. especially when it comes to things like redirects. Forgetting to die after redirect was a classic bug that people would have, bits and pieces like that. They do go a long way, but the problem is, I think frameworks also sort of encourage a similar thing to PHP did early on, in that it tries to ensure that you never have to worry about things when in actual fact you should be aware of them, right? And I think it's dangerous for people to go through life not being aware of these sorts of issues, because it will crop up at some point and it will bite you in the arse. Yeah.
We've got another question in the other room.
It's not working.
Not working.
Yeah, there's one.
Are there any sort of automated security tests you can run on your own system just to make sure?
Yeah, I mean, guys, there's a shitload out there. That wasn't, you know, this is such a wide-reaching subject that I didn't want to focus too much on that side of things. I wanted you to be aware from the coder side of things. But definitely there's a whole heap out there that you can test, but never rely on it, because there's always going to be something coming along later that, you know, they will be able to find something that those systems can't, all right? So you have to be defensive from your code outwards and then test afterwards, but don't rely on it purely on testing, all right?
I've got a question from the other room.
Yeah?
Have you ever used this knowledge to get even?
I would never answer such a question.
I'm going to do a shameless plug. But this chap here, Patrick, uses Composer on his projects, and Sensio Labs have just released a new piece of software, whereas if you upload your Composer, it will go through all the dependencies and see if there is any security alerts with any libraries that you're including.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool.
Nice one. Cool. Oh, there's one more at the back.
Yeah, I just wondered how many of those attacks that you showed are protected just by installing mod security on Apache?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I know things like the you know, putting double dots in the URL, it'll just 403 of those.
Probably a lot of them, but once again, you're trying to band-aid a solution. At some point in time, you might change servers that doesn't have hardened PHP project, all that sort of thing. So it won't save you. Yeah.
Another question here, Richard.
Oh, sorry.
Hello. If not PHP, then what? What's the alternative?
If not PHP, Java. No, guys. There's, you know, this isn't just exclusive to PHP. I mean, every language you can have issues in, but I think PHP goes an extra step in trying to shoot yourself in the foot. I mean, it actually really seems to be working against you sometimes. But yeah, so other languages do have their issues as well. I'm not saying that one language is perfect, but yeah. Sorry, the question. Did you want to repeat that in the mic?
Yeah, so hardened patch. Does that actually get rid of some of those vulnerabilities?
Oh, the hardened PHP project. It doesn't really. It traditionally protected a lot of the internal sort of stuff, but that poison bite character still works fine on it. This is Ubuntu, it works fine on Ubuntu, and that has the hardened PHP patch. Okay.
We've got another question in the other room.
Are the frameworks helping or hindering this problem?
The frameworks do help. They help the problem, but once again, yeah, they can also cover up people's awareness of these issues. So that even though, you know, this is low-level, old-school sort of stuff, it's still there. People should still be aware of it. Yeah. Anything else? One at the back.
Isn't the argument about not relying on mod security the same about not relying on safe mode being there?
That's quite true. I'm not saying don't install mod security. I'm just saying don't rely on it. Like, don't rely on safe mode, but use it if it's available, all right? Put layers in there, but don't rely on any single layer, because they will get through it. Okay? Anything else? All right. Cool. Guys, thanks very much. Have fun.